Nischal. I've worked in CloudStack support for almost 10 years with Citrix, with Persistent, and even as with Indicus for some time. And a year ago, I joined LINBIT. The journey has been amazing. And I want to say two personal things about myself. Okay, so one thing is I like to keep planted aquariums. I don't know if anybody is into aquariums, live plants and aquariums. The other thing is I like to build drones. Okay, so I don't drink alcohol, so all the extra money will go into all the drones. Okay, so you need a hobby to waste your money. So this is my hobby where I waste my money by putting into drones. I just keep doing that, right? Okay, so who is LINBIT, right? I don't know if you've heard of LINBIT. Some of you have heard, but some of you have not. Who is LINBIT? So we are basically open source block storage providers, right? We are open source block storage providers. We have developed a DRBD. It's not me, but it's a CEO who has developed DRBD. We have a small team, about 40 members. Mostly they are in Austria and some in USA, and I'm the only employee in India. As my friend Jitin says, I'm the India head, right? No, I'm not. I'm just, that's a joke, right? I'm the only employee in India, and we do 24/7 support worldwide. Okay, so let me define the problem. The problem is that we run the hyper-converged architecture. The servers are there, the hard disks are there, all individually. But if there's a server crash, what happens to the data, right? So that's where DRBD comes in. DRBD is distributed replicated block storage, right? Distributed replicated block device. That's a fancy name of saying RAID 1 over the network. We all know what RAID 1 is, right? Mirroring and mirroring over the network. That's it. So you have, let's say, 5 servers. Data is on one server, we'll mirror it to all the 5 servers. That's it. So that's a very simplistic way of saying it. But let me do a drill down, right? So this is the drill down. And the top layer is a service. Let's say it can be Apache CloudStack, it can be MySQL database, it can be anything, right? That's the top layer. Then comes the file system, and then the buffer cache, right? All that is there in the Linux kernel. The pink block or the red block, according to what your color preference is the kernel, right? It's in the system. So then comes the DRBD. That's a kernel module which is actually sitting there. And this kernel module would take the data, it would write to the disk. It would also send a copy of it over the network to another server, right? So the data gets mirrored to another server, right? So I forgot to tell this about DRBD. How many of you have done your college projects? BTech, BSc, MSc, right? So the DRBD project was started as a college project by our CEO, Philip Reisner, in the year 99, right? He took it quite seriously, and then he said, okay, so this is what is missing in the market. And in the year 99, he started it. In the year 2000, people started noticing it, so he built a company called LINBIT. And in the year 2010, this was included in the kernel, the Linux kernel. So it comes with your Ubuntu kernel, and it's open source, so you can download it, you can use it for free, right? So this is DRBD. What DRBD does is, let's say you have 2 servers, okay? The primary server is where your application is running and the data is being written. The secondary server is where the replication keeps happening. So that's a live replication which happens. So the replication is quite fast because the services don't know about this replication. The replication happens over the network, so there's no overhead of the application, about the ports and all that. So everything gets taken care at the kernel level, and it's quite fast, right? So this slide says that the service is running on one server, then the replication is happening. You could have multiple volumes on one server replicating to the second server. Also, you have one primary and you have multiple secondary servers, okay? So you could have about 32 replicas. Let's say you have 32 servers, you can have 32 replicas. I don't think anybody will use 32 replicas. About 8 or 9 is what we have seen max. Okay, then let's assume there's a hardware failure or there's a disk failure, right? When the disk failure happens, the service switches over, or if you have, let's say, something like the HA manager or like a pacemaker, it would change the service over to the secondary node. The secondary node becomes the primary, and the primary is down. So immediately the services they take over from the secondary node. But since the data is same, your users would not notice the difference at all, right? And then when your primary comes back, the data is synced. So each change that you write from the application would be written to a bitmap. Okay, so all the changes would be updated, and when the primary is up, all the changes would be updated to the primary. So there's actually the disk quorum which is there, right? So then we have the software called LINSTOR. But why do we need LINSTOR, you ask, right? We have DRBD. DRBD is doing a good job of replicating. It's something like what we do in the exams, right? We see a friend's question paper and we copy it. Perfectly fine copies, that's good. But what LINSTOR is used for is to manage, because if your volumes scale out to hundreds or thousands, DRBD doesn't know where to place it. DRBD doesn't have the idea to say, okay, I should bring this up, I should bring this down. It's very good at replicating, right? So what LINSTOR does is, let me explain this to you, right? So there is a LINSTOR controller at the center of the screen. That's a LINSTOR controller. That's a stateful controller that has a MySQL, and it would remember whatever you do. All the changes that you make would be made on the LINSTOR, right? And storage is provided by the satellites. The LINSTOR controller can also act as a satellite, but the storage is provided by the satellite nodes. And what makes this very special is basically the API. The API can talk to different softwares, which is like Kubernetes and OpenStack, Proxmox, the list goes on. So this API makes it very interesting. So the LINSTOR controller will talk to the API, and all the softwares will talk to it from the API to the LINSTOR controller. Let's assume there are about 6 nodes. Okay, this is a LINSTOR node or the LINSTOR cluster. All have the storages, right? All are the storages. Let's focus on one VM, either it's black or the blue, however you see it, right? That VM. So that VM has a disk. It has the black color disk we see. Then we see a replica of the disk at the bottom, right? We see 2 replicas. So it has basically 2 replicas. And as we all love to do with the VMs in cloud, we like to migrate it from one server to another server. The disk has been migrated from one server to another server, but still, the VM has been migrated, but the disk still remains in the previous server. It is still accessible. So what happens here is, the VM is able to read from both the servers, but it would be writing only to one server basically, right? So let's say this is your MySQL server, and you want very high IOPS. You want a little bit of IOPS difference also. So you could make some changes in the settings, and it would replicate this disk, which is on the first server to wherever the VM is. So it would follow wherever the VM goes, right? So the replication, it happens pretty quickly, and then LINSTOR remembers it is supposed to have only 2 copies of the data disk. So it would remove the 3rd copy, right? So this is what happens. All this is good, right? But you have to sit, you have to configure DRBD, you have to sit, you have to configure LINSTOR, you have to configure HA if you want HA, all that is there. So what we did was, we made an appliance. We made it as an appliance. The appliance would configure DRBD, it would configure LINSTOR, it would configure HA also, it would also configure your CloudStack. So everything is in appliance. All this is in one ISO. The only thing is we have to install this in minimum of 3 virtual machines or 3 physical machines, right? I would like to show the installation, but it would take at least 20 minutes. And since we're running out of time and we're all hungry, I just show you some of the snapshots. The installer is pretty easy, right? This looks like a Alma Linux installer or the Red Hat installer, right? So it's pretty easy. Just click, 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 and you're done, right? The only thing you must remember is, you should only select one disk for the root disk. The rest can be the data disk, and you can just go to the next one. The Alma Linux installer has a bug. If you have more than one network, it just doesn't choose the other network. So you'll have to manually go, you have to enable the networks, the second and the third, you can add the bonding here, and it should be done. So within about uh, a few minutes, the installation will be done, and then in a web interface, if you access the IP address, you'll be greeted with this interface. It says, please give a name for your cluster. Once you give a name for your cluster, within 2 minutes, it would configure DRBD, it would configure LINSTOR, it's done, right? And the next screen is, it would ask you for the range of IP addresses that you want for CloudStack, right? You have an IP address for system VMs, you have IP address for your guest VMs. So basically, we just we configure the basic zone by default. So after you're done, or if you don't want the basic zone, after all the configuration is done, you can remove the basic zone, you can configure the advanced zone. And the next thing is, CloudStack will ask, these are the storages I see, do you want to configure it as one big storage, right? And I just say yes, and we go, and the next thing it asks is the resource group. I'm sorry if the picture is not very clear. It just says, this is the resource group. It is like saying your volume group or your VG in your LVM, right? And here we say how many replicas we want, 2 or 3 the replicas we want. And the next screen, it would ask you, do you want to configure the HA, the high availability for CloudStack, and what is the IP address? You just have to give the IP address. It would configure the high availability for LINSTOR and for the CloudStack also, right? And once this is done, you would see this screen, right? This is the screen for LINSTOR. I'm sorry, I'll have to turn to operate it, right? So this is the screen for LINSTOR, right? And CloudStack also is ready, right? CloudStack is ready. This I think we are pretty familiar with. Let me just add an instance. Okay, let me just change the setting here so I can just turn the side. Right. Okay, so now let me just add a VM here, right? So this is one of the Alma Linux instance. Okay. And launch an instance. And here, these are the 3 controllers that LINSTOR has. And just switch to the advanced mode. It will show you the usage. And if you want to see the volumes, we can see the volumes over here. This is the template. This is the Alma Linux 8 template. It would show you the name of the template here. And if it is number 13, so it would create a root 13. So that's the volume it will actually create. So I think it's just copying. Let me just check if the system VMs are up. Okay. Okay, I think it has created the volumes. So root 13, yeah. Oh, here it is. So it says to which VM it belongs. This is the volume. And sorry if it's not very visible. Let me try to zoom in and scroll up. Right. So we have 3 copies of it. We have 3 server names, and we have 3 different copies of it. So 2 are the main copies. The other one is a diskless copy. So yeah, so just want to show this. If there's any other questions, I can take it. Any questions? Okay, I think there's one question. Yeah, so this is a thin provision. I mean, you have the option for thin provision, also you have thick provision. You can thin provision it. For the space, I mean, because you're mirroring it, right? So each of it could be double the size of whatever you want, okay? And there's also encryption, LUKS encryption is there, so you could also enable the LUKS encryption.
Does it also increase the performance like IOPS or latency kind of thing? So does it impact that?
Yeah, so the IOPS will be better because you have your disk and then it is on the same zone. So yeah, definitely the IOPS are better.
Till now, means it's like you have shown for so it's Linux kind of. But,
yeah.
Is it compatible with Windows?
Windows. Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, for Windows we have something called as the Win DRBD, right? So Win DRBD is used. It is, I mean, some of the customers are using it, but still it's in development. It may not be as on par with the Linux DRBD, but the Win DRBD is used, and you can still control it with the LINSTOR. I think in the next version you'll be able to control it with the LINSTOR. I see. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yes, sir. Okay. Right. Yes. Yes. So the IOPS are configurable. I think we have someone from Ampere here. Yeah. So definitely. So we have worked with Ampere. I think we've got the best IOPS from Ampere. So yeah, it is configurable according to your needs here. Okay.
So I'm really sorry, this question is from you. I'm new to DRBD.
Okay.
I will self user. So self user, self healing, unlimited scalable platform.
Okay.
And open source. So is LINBIT an open source platform?
Yes. Yes. It is completely open source. You could download it. You could use it.
Okay. And how about the comparison when you do it with Ceph? What are the key differences?
I'm not very sure about Ceph. I don't know how good Ceph is, but from what I've heard, Ceph has a lot of bells and whistles, and to troubleshoot it, you would need more. It's like comparing OpenStack versus CloudStack, right? OpenStack has a lot of bells and whistles, and you may need it, you may not need it. But CloudStack is pretty simple, so straightforward. So that's the one thing. I think. Higher support, yeah.
Like you have it in the community, right? It's open source edition, but along with that, you have support services also.
Yes. So we do charge for support, right? So we need to have some DAL and all that. So we do sell the support. We have a 24/7 support, and even the community help is also there.
Most pressing question from everybody: how are the backups? That is something that
I
you
know.
showed was coming out of the box, right?
Right.
So like NAS, what you were talking about earlier, how about any other backup integration area?
Okay. So we don't deal with the backup integration. So it's basically the block storage. So I think, yeah. So that's sort of thing. I think because of I don't know. Yeah, so we have some NAS solutions built into this. Otherwise, I think we don't have any kind of backups. We just have some snapshots, and that's it. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we have snapshots over here also. I mean, in the LINSTOR also, you can take snapshot at the storage level, not just the CloudStack level.
Does it support multi-level virtualization?
Multi-level, I'm not sure. I'm sorry about that.
So let's say in case if a environment is already there,
Okay.
and you want to test it out, run it on that, you can do it on production. Because there are a lot of hypervisors which has got a lot of storage available.
Okay. Right.
Very less compute.
Right.
So you to use that storage, maybe you might deploy multiple virtual machines, use the storage,
Okay.
and create a storage out of that.
Okay.
Is it doable?
I think so. I'm not very sure. I still didn't get your point. I'm sorry, but it should be doable. Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
In your slide 14,
Okay.
you mentioned that if you need
Yeah.
extreme IOPS, there is some configuration that will cause the physical replica to move to that particular host, right?
Right. That's right. Yeah.
So isn't it a better option to move the VM rather than the replica? Is this configurable? Does this happen automatically?
It is configurable. So you can actually say follow the VM. It would follow. For example, if you have a hardware failure.
Moving the replica, right?
Yeah. So moving the replica. Yeah. So that also should be okay. But then for the disk, that should come from the CloudStack, right?
Yeah.
So that I don't think we can do it because CloudStack manages the VM. So we'll have to see if we can integrate that way. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because according to me, follow the VM will have performance.
Yeah. So
tomorrow
till there's a replica. Okay.
Or whatever, you again keep following. Is that configurable or
yeah, it is.
auto?
Yeah, it is configurable. You can say just wait for 60 seconds to see if the VM will migrate or to come back and all that. So you can actually do that. Yeah.
Generally speaking, here's the point, because VMs have much less gravity as compared to storage, right?
Yep.
Storage has more gravity, it sticks to one place. VMs can kind of move.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
sure that is, firstly, that is almost table stakes. I'm very confident it has that. So we have a paper with that, and thanks to the plug,
Yeah.
right? We've actually tested it. So VMs can move.
Yep. Thank you.
VMs is a better idea than
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, it's not very clear. Resource consumption, okay. Right.
But you haven't clarified exactly how much the CPU or the RAM should be. Because that's important. Instead, or other ZFS kind of thing.
Okay.
Software user take somewhat reserve RAM or something.
Yeah.
So this means how exactly the resource conversion is that, and if we want to start it,
Okay.
or do a lab test or something like that. So what kind of resource we are looking at?
Okay.
So this is the first question.
Yeah. So yeah, so the resource consumptions are pretty low. Okay, it is pretty low. So I'm not sure how do I give you the numbers. So most people do run the hypervisors plus this one. So it's a hyper-converged architecture. So most people do run it. So it doesn't need a large resource. The other thing is it needs the storage for the bitmap. So extra, if you give a 50 GB storage, it would take 200 MB or 50 MB for this one. So there's a certain calculation, and that's it. So that's all. Yes, sir.
How do you prepare yourself with the store code?
Yeah. So I would say IOPS wise we have. So it should be good. So IOPS wise we are good, and I would say the support wise also we are good. So and we're open source. So
There is a big difference between IOPS and throughput.
yeah.
A lot of people don't understand. How about in throughput? Because NFS is all about throughput.
Yeah.
not IOPS.
Yeah. So that's all. So this is a block storage. So it's not NFS. So we'll have to configure NFS separately. So we are mainly for block storage. Yeah.
Feedback from the community, and speaking on behalf of almost all CloudStack users. See, especially when you talk of in LINSTOR, in conjunction with CloudStack, NFS has to be inbuilt.
Yeah. That's right.
This VM Jugaad
Yeah. It doesn't work. That's right. Yeah. 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 I think let me take that point.
CloudStack is NFS.
Yeah.
Whether you talk about secondary storage, primary storage.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Let me see. I think I'll just take this point up. So let's see. Hopefully they'll be able to handle it. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.